Hi, welcome. Thank you so much to my subscribers, and to my new subscribers, welcome. The channel is growing. So today I'm going to be covering a particular topic that I haven't covered in my videos yet, your first brush. So this is good for beginners and it's also good for current shavers, this video. So what was your first brush if you already have one, and what considerations did you take into mind when you purchased your brush, your first brush? And for new shavers, especially for budget shavers, what should your first brush be? And this is an interesting topic for wet shavers, especially that brushing lather onto your face is one of the most enjoyable parts of shaving. It's really wonderful. A lot of guys will take an extraordinary amount of time just enjoying lathering, and that's a wonderful thing. If you can enjoy your shaving, there's only so many shaves that you have in your life, make it count. So today I'm going to be doing a shave with the King C Gillette, which we've already loaded up from my last shave. I think I have 3 days worth of growth. I've not really been measuring time lately, just working and using the inexpensive Palmolive shave lather. So this is another one of these terrific budget products. And just because something is budget doesn't mean that it's not good. Budget can mean an excellent product. It just means inexpensive rather than just cheap. So this is made in Italy of all places, and in Australia you can buy it for around $3.50 Australian, which is under $3 US. It's like $2.50. It's 65 grams, and if you use 1 gram, it's 65 shaves. If you use 2, it's 32 shaves. So this is very inexpensive, and it's excellent quality, and it's a cream, and I believe it's vegan because it's made by Colgate Palmolive, which only produce vegan soaps according to their website. So let's get started. So today's brush that I'm going to be using is the cheapest brush available on eBay. It's around, I think, $3.50 Australian, which is $2.50 US. So it's a very inexpensive, cheap brush. It has a softwood handle, and it has some kind of metal gold colored looking ferrule, and it has this synthetic knot that's very, very thin, and it is very, very, very cheap. Okay, this is not only budget, but it's cheap. And should you go for a brush like this, and what considerations should you have when you buy a brush? So let's get into the shave. Going to be doing a bowl and brush lather, where I'm just using a $1 inexpensive Japanese rice bowl. I find this shape is really, really good. I don't need veins. It's a bit like making a mayonnaise or whipping up cream. You know, veins will help for some guys that want a lot of foam. So I'm just putting a dollop onto the bottom of the bowl, which it's about a gram, maybe a gram and a half, a little bit less. So what I'm going to do here is wet my face, and let's talk about brushes. All about your first brush. So for the guys, you know, what are considerations that some gents will buy a brush? Okay, the first consideration that I would think is whether you buy a synthetic or an animal hair brush. And there's two main types of animal hair, boar and badger. There's also horsehair. In the past, men were using horsehair, and previously only natural hair products were available. There weren't really many good synthetic brushes around. But today, things have changed. There are many, many wonderful synthetic brushes that are out there. So I'm just moistening the face, preparing it for the shave, and then I just wet the brush, knock out most of the water, and just start my bowl lather. So there's all kinds of brushes. Even in badger brushes, there's silver tip, there's mixed hair. So you've got different qualities of brushes. Now, natural brushes need special treatment. You have to soak the badger brush in water for a period of time so it hydrates the bristles of the brush so that they don't break and fall out. Also, heating brushes with hot water will weaken the knot because they're glued into the handle. So the brush is simply just a knot of fiber or hair glued together, and a piece of turned plastic or wood or resin, and it's just glued in there. That's all what a brush is. It's nothing terribly sophisticated. And brushes range from, this is the cheapest one that I could find, $3.80 all the way up to hundreds of dollars. A lot of these, you know, just like shoes or clothing, you're paying for the brand, not necessarily the quality, although some people would argue. Now, my favorite brush is not a badger brush. It's actually a synthetic brush. I like the design of this brush. I like the handle, and I like it's synthetic. And also there are ethical considerations, because most of the time, especially with badger brushes, the fibers, the hair comes from China, and the badger is killed in usually quite an inhumane manner, and the way they're bred is quite horrendous. So for me, an ethical consideration, not just price, is the reason why I now only buy synthetic brushes, although some guys will disagree with me. The tradition is natural fibers, yeah. And the face feel is really important to a brush. I really love the synthetic brush, and I have probably about, I think, 6 badger brushes in my collection, and I have probably about as many synthetic brushes. And yeah, I'll only buy synthetic brushes for the ethical reasons that I mentioned. Some people will choose a brush from a particular maker, or because something is made in a certain country. Like some people want to support a local product, you know, that's handmade in their own country, and that's a very, very nice thing to do. For some people, it's about their budget, but I think the number one factor is utility in all of these things. Looking for how useful the brush is. Is it fit for purpose? And for me, the face feel, the quality of this inexpensive brush, the fact that it doesn't have a lot of backbone, that it squishes, makes this probably, even though it's inexpensive, not very useful, and the longevity, it probably won't last very long. So I'm not a big fan of buying too cheaply. I would say I'd prefer to use my fingers over this, to be honest. This is something where, you know, you try it out, see whether you like painting lather on the face, and then, you know, decide whether you want to have something which feels quite luxurious. So half the video has been me talking and preparing the beard. Let's use the budget razor from Gillette. And even with heavy growth, this thing's just knocking it off. I think where closed comb and solid bars razors really fall down, for me, where it's about 5 days of growth. So just doing the vertical motion. And you can see the first pass is knocking that off nicely. So for me, I think it was a kind of an epiphany the first time I used the synthetic brush from Yaki, because they were so highly rated that I was only using badgers before that. And then I moved to higher quality synthetic, which are a fraction of the price, and just fell in love with them. They're so soft and yet still thick that they have a backbone, that they're really able to massage and penetrate the bristles and the skin really well to coat the hair and the face, the skin with lather. And if you think about it, the purpose for a brush is not only that it feels really great to massage the lather into the beard, but also the fact that if you think about it, you're using a paintbrush. So you can imagine smearing paint with your fingers or using a paintbrush, you're going to get a lot more coverage. And because these are so fine, it's able to penetrate a lot deeper and a lot further and really work in and prepare the whiskers a lot better than what your fingers can. And that's really an important point for the reason why brushes are actually quite practical. And here, especially with the heavier beard growth, you can see that the first pass, I'm working it a little bit more in order to get more of the hair. So that's the first pass done. We've taken down, I'd say, a good 80% of the hair. Still a lot of stubble around the resistant area. And this time, the next pass, I'm going to be doing across a grain. So let's put some more lather on the face. And this palm olive just is wonderful, wonderful. I love it. And if you're on a budget, literally you do not need, you could shave happily for the rest of your life if that's all you had with this palm olive. It's that good. I don't think I've ever heard of anybody complaining that this palm olive cream didn't do a great job. It's just wonderful and great value for the money. But again, you know, do you want to support a multinational or do you want to support a local artisan? You know, and for me, a local artisan is really important. You know, so I like to buy a range of products, including those from artisans. Yeah, so let's talk more about brushes. So for me, you know, the gel tips and the synthetics are better. They just win now. So yeah, I don't think for me a Badger brush will ever replace a synthetic in my den. Synthetics now rule. Some people buy based on design or for a collection. You know, they have different colors or different materials. But honestly, it's a handle with a fiber knot in it. That's all they are. But certainly, there is a difference in face feel between them. Yeah, for me, this design of the Yaki Mocha is just, it's by a Chinese company, and I think in Chinese it's Yachi, and in English it's Yaki, and it's just a nice, I don't know the longevity of them. Typically, you know, they'll say some brushes will last 2 years, some brushes will last 5 years. And I've seen some brushes handed down from father to son, you know, for generations. But another thing to consider when you're buying a brush is a stand, because brushes need to be hung up. So if you're on a budget, the stand is really important. Because you want it to dry nicely. So having a stand where you can just hang up the brush and allow it to drip dry, or you shake it out and then drip dry is really, really particularly important. So you have to factor that if you're on a budget that you do need a stand. And another thing besides the stand is how many brushes does one buy? And my recommendation is you need 2 brushes. And you should alternate between the 2 brushes. So every 24 hours you would say use one and let it dry, and let it dry for 48 hours before using it again. This way, especially if you've decided to use, say, a natural fiber like a badger or a boar brush, it gives it time to dry. I mean, the treatment of a natural brush is really, really important. The synthetic brushes, you can simply dry, hang them up, and use them for the next day. It's unlikely to get moldy or damaged or funky. Whilst I've heard a lot of recommendations for the badger brush not to be used every day and to dry them out. Again, I'm not a materials expert on natural bristles, but that's my understanding. Okay, we're going to do a third pass now. So what were your considerations if you already have one or more brushes in your purchase? Was it budget? Was it synthetic? What did you choose? That's pretty important. Why did you choose that brush? Do you have a favorite brush that you like to use? You know, I think for me, the whole witnessing of how the badgers are raised and killed really polarized me, as well as the quality of the synthetic brush, that it's even nicer feeling, you know, than a badger brush. You know, and I have badger brushes. I have a number of them. I haven't used all of them, so I'm not going to be claiming that, you know, I've used hundreds of badger brushes. Over a long period of time, but honestly, my advice is 2 brushes, that's it. Okay. Cool. So for me, this is a simple shave today. Warm water, and then cold. And then patting the skin dry. And I think the comments will be interesting to read from you guys. So yeah, buying super cheap is not probably the best thing to do. In fact, I think, you know, buying too cheaply, you're better off just sticking with the fingers. Where it gets really good in terms of a budget that's going to give you longevity is, say, something like, I'm not a salesperson and I'm not advocating that you buy this brush or Yaki brushes, but they produce wonderful synthetic brushes. And so if you get a high quality synthetic brush, I think it's about, you know, $25 US or 30 Australian dollars, you can get something really, really excellent. And the feeling as soon as you use it is just luxurious and wonderful. We'll talk in another video about the types of lathering methods that everyone prefers and what you guys use. But for me, I love bowl and brush. And if you've seen my video on how to lather like a boss, I talk all about how I like to bowl lather even with difficult soaps. So just finishing off with some post-shave Nivea balm, which is the aloe, vitamin E I think it has, and some other goodies that soothe, witch hazel, that soothe and stop irritation, and that's it. So yeah, let me know what your first brush is and why you chose it, and what brushes you like and why you choose them. Thank you.